Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of I'm 33 years old and I watch videos that I hate for a living. Today, we're going to be finishing up the classroom videos from Genesis Apologetics. We've got about 7 of them left, and each of them is worse than the last 20 videos combined. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon and my channel members here on YouTube. If you hate these videos, you can blame them for funding them. Anyway, let's get right into it. Welcome back to Reacteria.
So, Professor, sorry, back to what you were saying about the whales.
Well, it says here, Darwin believed whales evolved from bears.
That's not true at all, but it is one of the funnier lies the creationists tell. You see, Darwin once wrote about the fact that bears sometimes swim at the surface of the water with their mouths open to catch insects, and he once suggested that if there were so many insects that they could potentially get all the nutrients they needed this way, they might eventually evolve to become better and better swimmers with bigger and bigger mouths until they were, quote, as monstrous as a whale. And that's what's so funny about this. Creationists are such shameless liars that they literally heard someone saying, can you imagine if a bear grew to be as big as a whale? And then turned to their audience and said, this guy believes that bears turned into whales. It's just genuinely wild to me that anybody still takes these people seriously when they know that they lie like that. That's why these videos, they don't even feel like reactions anymore. This is more like group therapy, you know?
The California Academy of Sciences claims they evolved from creatures like hyenas.
So what he's talking about here are mesonychids, which are one of the hypothesized ancestors for whales from around 50 or so years ago. Since then, however, we found several other fossils of whale ancestors, especially Indohyus, which rule that hypothesis out and show that whales are actually descended from artiodactyls. So the people who wrote this are either reading from wildly out-of-date material, or they're just deliberately misrepresenting the facts, and honestly, it's difficult to know which one it is because the people who make these videos are as ignorant as they are dishonest.
The Tokyo Institute of Science says it was a hippo-like creature.
So now we're talking about artiodactyls, which are the ancestors of whales. But hippo-like doesn't mean that whales literally came from hippos. It just means that their ancestors may have lived sort of like hippos, and are in the same group as hippos. Sheep are as well, but whales didn't come from sheep either.
The University of Michigan says it was like a cat.
And we're back to mesonychids.
The Carnegie Museum says it was like a wolf.
And now they're just pulling from different carnivores, which are all going to be hinting at the mesonychid hypothesis.
The Melbourne Museum says it was like a deer.
It was kind of like a deer.
And the American Museum of Natural History says it was like a lion.
You guys know that saying something is like something doesn't mean that it is that thing, right? Also, you know that lying is wrong, right?
And you're saying that these hip bones here are evolutionary leftovers whenever the whales would walk on land.
Yes.
The science journal Evolution actually says that those hip bones are reproductive claspers.
Holy crap, that's wrong. Just so we're on the same page here, claspers are male reproductive organs in cartilaginous fish. So sharks and rays and such, what we would call chondrichthyans. Whales have bony skeletons and are also mammals, so they don't have claspers. What you are wronging about, Paul, is the fact that the pelvises of whales still have muscle attachments for their penises. But that doesn't mean that it's not a vestigial structure, because the word vestigial doesn't mean that something is completely useless. They are still strong evidence for evolution, as I laid out in great detail in my video about John and Jane playing Whale Jeopardy. Man, I wish I was joking about that sentence. What is my life? But I don't expect Darth Paul to be able to understand the nuances there, because that would involve talking about things like penises, and he can't even handle the word mating.
So they're necessary for joining whales together during, mating.
See what I mean? Not being able to talk about sex like adults has to be one of the top 5 most annoying things about creationists.
So if that's the case, then these aren't evolutionary leftovers. These are designed for a purpose.
That's called an ad hoc hypothesis, Paul out New Vegas. It's a logical fallacy, not a scientific argument. But if you want to stick to it, please tell me why whales were purposefully designed to have multi-chambered stomachs as well.
Ew, dead bodies everywhere.
It's a mass graveyard.
That's right. We find millions of dinosaur fossils buried in a stretch of land 1,800 miles long by 1,000 miles wide, and includes 14 states and parts of 3 countries.
That's because that area was once covered by an inland ocean called the Western Interior Seaway. We've talked a lot about that on this channel, including in this series and this mini-series within this series, if anybody wants to go learn more about it.
What materials were they buried in? And how deep were they?
Sea creatures, freshwater fish, clams, over 400 species of mammals, even 120 species, including modern birds like parrots, owls, penguins, ducks, loons, albatross, cormorants, and sandpipers.
That's not what Paul along the watchtowers just asked you. He asked what material they were in and how deep they were. Did you guys edit these videos on purpose?
Okay, so they were buried under megatons of mud, sand, and ash.
When did he say that? Did you guys just forget to include that part of the conversation and hope that nobody would notice?
Alongside sea creatures, mammals, and even birds, which they supposedly evolved into.
Dinosaurs did evolve into birds, Paul of Fame, but that doesn't mean that all dinosaurs evolved into birds, nor does it mean that birds only evolved after the asteroid impact. Birds go back over 140 million years. What you would recognize as dinosaurs and what you would recognize as birds lived alongside each other for a very long time.
I mean, Noah's flood is sounding like a lot better of an explanation to me.
Yes, of course. The thing that you can question the evidence for is wrong, but the thing that you have no evidence for is right. Dear Glob, won't anyone stop this? Will anyone help? These videos just keep going, and they keep saying the same things, and they just make me want to pull my eyeballs out. Won't anyone please put an end to the madness? I just need... When I returned, the obelisk was gone. They're called aglets, Julia. Forrest Valkai here with another amazing offer from Brilliant! Are you tired of feeling like you can't learn math and science? Do you know you're capable of learning more but just can't find a lesson that clicks? Are you desperate to learn the secrets of the universe but unable to make time in the day? Well, not anymore! Introducing Brilliant, an everyday learning app that uses interactive lessons to unlock the learner you were meant to be. Watch how quickly Brilliant unleashes the power of your mind to help you grasp the most difficult concepts. They have thousands of lessons in math, science, programming, and more, and they're adding new content all the time. The secret is in the interactive lessons. They're specially designed by experts from places like MIT, Harvard, and Stanford to make the toughest concepts absorb directly into your brain. And you can try Brilliant right now absolutely free for a full 30 days by going to brilliant.org/ForrestValkai, scanning the QR code on the screen, or clicking the link down in the description. But wait, there's more! As a part of this exclusive offer, I'm throwing in 20% off an annual subscription to Brilliant Premium, which gives you unlimited access to Brilliant's entire catalog. Don't waste your time with boring lectures. With Brilliant, you'll learn by solving problems right in the palm of your hand. And just when you thought Brilliant couldn't get any better, they raised the bar again with their personalized practice feature that adapts to your learning level to optimize your education. And they have a specialized course for scientific thinking to help new learners see the world through a scientific lens. It's just one more thing that makes Brilliant perfect for all learners from ages 10 to 110. So what are you waiting for? You get a free 30-day trial plus 20% off an annual subscription. You will not find a better offer anywhere else. So head on over to brilliant.org/ForrestValkai, scan the QR code on the screen, or click the link in the description right now. Don't just learn, get brilliant. Oh my glob. Ugh.
So you're saying that the 6 million year trail showing humans coming from apes and that evolution can fit into a pickup truck?
Oh dear, math, we're back to the pickup truck thing.
Yes, according to the emeritus curator of the American Museum of Natural History.
I mean, we're pushing 8 billion people right now and 500 primate species.
We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. They're recycling their own bad arguments so quickly that they can't even fully state them within the same video.
And yet there's not a single transition piece between them?
This is called Sahelanthropus. You would know about it if you could read.
Nothing?
Dear Glob, these teachers stink on ice, dude.
I mean, I'm actually with Charles Darwin here when he says that if evolution was true, innumerable transitional forms must have existed. And then he questioned, why do we not find them embedded in countless numbers in the crust of the Earth? And then Darwin said that the lack of transitional forms is the most obvious and serious objection which can be urged against the theory of evolution.
Darwin explained how the fossil record is necessarily incomplete, and that someday he hoped we would find more fossil evidence. And then 166 years went by, and we did.
I think that we should seriously see more fossil evidence if evolution is true.
I think that you should see literally any evidence that humans can be made from mud or a rib before you believe that we were whipped into existence by some guy.
And you think my position as a creationist requires faith?
Yes, hey, I just met you and this is crazy, but here's my number, so poll me maybe. I do think that believing in something with zero evidence requires faith. And more importantly, I don't think that arguing against or lying about science is a good enough reason to claim that you don't need faith, especially when you do believe that having faith is a good thing. Like if I told you that I've never seen evolution in action, but I still believe in it because my belief, the belief itself, is the evidence and the material proof that evolution was real. I don't think there's a creationist alive that would take me seriously. But if I were to say that I believe in something supernatural because my faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen, then I'm just quoting the Bible, and these people would praise it, just as long as my faith aligned with theirs. It's always, faith is bad unless it's faith in their religion. Evidence is useless unless it's evidence that they approve of. And lying is wrong unless you're lying for Jesus. And because somewhere, deep down, they know they're full of crap, they have to assume that all scientists work the same way too. And so they portray science as some sort of wicked indoctrination scheme built upon bad evidence and worse logic, all with the sole purpose of capturing new minds to be crushed and carved into the pre-approved shape. And the whole time they fail to realize they're not pointing at science, they're pointing at a mirror. It's like a buffet of cognitive dissonance and worldview defense, and the one thing that I'm begging them to add to the menu is self-awareness.
It says here, our traits are passed down according to our genetic code, according to a very specific set of rules first observed by Gregor Mendel. And in my opinion, that's a huge blow to evolution.
Okay, I can't wait to hear this.
All right, so we're talking about DNA. Place your bets now on where you think Poltergeist is going to go with this.
Okay, so first, life has never been observed to come from non-life. Ever.
Life has also never been observed to come from magic. Ever. And yet, while we have a mounting body of evidence showing how the building blocks of life can self-assemble and self-replicate and form lifelike structures and even go through a type of evolution all by themselves, you have two conflicting stories about where life came from in the first two chapters of your own book.
Second, to date, there is no known observable process by which new genetic information can be added to the genetic code of any organism.
Anytime you change up DNA, you are changing the information. That is adding new information. And even if you want to get real pedantic about the word adding, gene duplications and viral insertions happen all the time, which literally add new code, new information into an organism's DNA. They're not even stretching the truth or taking things out of context here. They are just lying.
Without these, evolution's dead in the water. I mean, these aren't just side issues, these are imperative to evolutionary theory.
One of those things has nothing to do with evolutionary theory, and the other one is just a straight up lie, so I think evolution is probably just fine.
If you can't get the evolutionary car started, you can't move it down the street. So, Professor, is there any new evidence you have to answer these 2 points?
Let me check the science journals.
I mean, at least she was willing to go check, but I'd prefer she go look for a different job so these kids can have a decent teacher.
The fossil record proves the evolutionary order of life. Simpler creatures on the bottom, and more complexity as you move up the geologic column.
See, but I think the fossil record better explains the order in which creatures were buried, like in Noah's flood.
Well, then how do you explain places where the geological column and all the fossils that it contains is either tilted or inverted, reverse polarity? Or how about the places where we find dry, cracked mud preserved between millions of years worth of fossils that you claim were all buried at the exact same time during the flood?
See, starting at the bottom, the ocean floor, the fountains of the great deep broke open, and thus the marine life in the ocean floor buried.
Then why is there marine life from the ocean floor all throughout the fossil record and it changes over time? All you need is love? Wouldn't that falsify your model?
Then, as the flood rose, they go into the shallow waters, and then to the coastal regions, and then to the swamplands, and finally to the mountain regions. Your chart reflects this perfectly.
It doesn't reflect that perfectly at all, Paulite society, or maybe societal Paul Laps. Can't decide which one of those is better. The point is, you're wrong. You can literally see on her chart right here, there are fish and mammals up near the top. Your model only works if those things exclusively live on mountains.
Well, actually, what I see is we're both looking at the same picture, but there's two different explanations.
Well, true, you may see evolution, but in reality, it's just snapshots of dying creatures being buried underneath flood-deposited layers.
That's just an assertion. And more importantly, it's an assertion that defeats itself. You really gotta Paul it quits with this one, dude. I gotta stop. This is starting to feel impolite. Impolite.
What did you just say disproves evolution?
Mice, lizards, and finches, of course.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean. Evolution is driven by nature selecting the fittest creatures to survive and reproduce, passing on their favorable traits while the others die out.
Well, how's that happen, Professor?
Well, mutations and natural selection.
Mutations and natural selection are 2 of the 4 major mechanisms of evolution, and even those 4 aren't the whole story. These people don't even know half of what they're talking about.
But research is now showing that creatures are pre-programmed to adapt to their environments in just a few generations. You see, their survivability is not just dependent on random chance, but it's because they're created to do so.
Only 2 of the 4 major mechanisms of evolution, mutation and genetic drift, involve random chance, and even within those, there are some parts that aren't entirely random.
And here's where the finches come in, okay? Darwin believed that different shapes and sizes of finch feet and beaks, depending on their different islands, was showing evolution, right? But this is where epigenetics comes in, okay?
Keep an eye out in this next part, because we're not going to talk about finches again. He said that finches, mice, and lizards disprove evolution, but then he just brought up finches for no reason, and we're just going to move past that now and start giving random facts about mice and lizards.
So, mice. They can grow different vertebrae depending on if they're in the forest or in the prairie.
I have no idea what I want to talk to my lawyer and I want my one phone Paul is talking about here, but I did go digging for info on mice of the same species having different numbers of vertebrae based on whether they live in a forest or a prairie, and I did find a couple of papers. This one is from 2014, which is after these videos came out, and this one is from 2016, so it would probably fit within the timeline here. Both of them talk about deer mice, which grow longer or shorter tails with more or less vertebrae in them, depending on whether they're living in a forest or a prairie environment. But neither of them are about epigenetics. In fact, both of them use this variation as a model to better explain evolution, especially the 2024 paper, which specifically deals with the expression of a Hox gene, which is a crucial concept in evolutionary developmental biology, which helps us understand things like how new body plans, or as these folks might call them, new kinds, would evolve. That was literally just a throwaway line in their script, and it completely went against everything they were talking about. How you like them apples?
Lizards can grow longer legs depending on their location.
Again, this is a super vague statement, so I have no idea what specific source they're referencing, but I did find this paper about anolis lizards having different leg lengths in different habitats depending on what part of the forest they were living in. It was published in 2021, so it's within the range of when these videos were being produced, and you'll never guess what it's not about. Like in the first video, they referenced epigenetics, and they were largely wrong about it, but now they're just calling anything epigenetics, and I don't think they actually know what that word means.
You see, this isn't just some random act of chance. This is pre-programmed epigenetics.
Case in point, epigenetics isn't pre-programmed. It's changes in the way that your DNA is read caused by factors in your environment during your life. So in order to say that epigenetic changes are pre-programmed, you would have to also say that the organism's entire life is pre-programmed. What a wild way to announce that you believe in predeterminism.
So here's what they were doing in 1909.
Those hats are fire.
Up here, please. Yes, the picture from 1909 I was trying to show is this one. For years, scientists have portrayed Neanderthals as gorilla-like cavemen, kind of like a last step between ape-like creatures and humans. But nowadays, they probably looked more like this.
Hey, cute man do.
So your complaint is about bad science writing and bad illustrations, not necessarily bad science.
Why are they still being used as evidence for ape-like creatures turning into humans?
Neanderthals were humans. They were just a different species of humans, Homo neanderthalensis. Also, humans are apes, and so were Neanderthals, and also we interbred with Neanderthals a lot, and we have genetic evidence to prove that.
I mean, they seem much more advanced than many ancient people groups.
They weren't, you're just racist.
Don't we all know somebody with those well-defined deep eyebrows?
Not like this, you don't. Nor do you know anybody with a flat, elongated head or with an occipital bun, which is that bony projection off the back. You do not know any Neanderthals. Paul in a day's work.
Right? I mean, they also had jewelry. They had musical instruments, weaponry, medicine, artwork. Scientists are still trying to replicate a type of glue they used for their weaponry.
None of the things you just listed are unique to our species. You're just using your self-importance as evidence.
I even heard that the Neanderthals lived with, had families with, and were buried with modern humans. So to me that settles it. I think they're just humans.
Yeah, and your mom lived with and had a family with whatever squirrel produced you, Dennis, but that doesn't change the delineation between species.
It sure does.
I like to think that that was the moment that the person who played this teacher realized what she had wrought by being a part of these films. She looks genuinely defeated in a way that would surpass any acting ability that she's displayed thus far. What a good way to end this series. Nice and grim. Well, that was the last relevant video in the playlist, so it looks like our classroom miniseries has come to an end. Don't feel too excited about that, because while I may be done making fun of Genesis apologetics for a little while, they're not done doing silly things. These classroom videos are currently being recycled as shorts on their channel.
I want to get back to radiometric dating, which proves the Earth is over 4 billion years old.
Aren't radiometric ages tied with unprovable assumptions?
The eyes have 100 million light-sensitive cells and can see a single lit candle almost 2 miles away.
And in the years since they've released these, they've made a ton more, which use the exact same scripts, but are somehow lower in production value.
We know from radiometric dating that Earth is over 4 billion years old.
But aren't those radiometric ages tied to a bunch of unprovable assumptions?
Darwin's finches demonstrated that natural selection could result in finches adapting to their environment over time, eventually leading to new species being formed.
But now science has proved Darwin wrong, because the ability for a creature to pass down changes to the next generation is already built into the genetic code as part of God's design.
The Laetoli footprints are the earliest evidence we have of our ancestors walking upright.
Those footprints are great evidence that our earliest ancestors looked a whole lot more like Adam and Eve than Lucy the chimp.
I need you to know that I did not add that edit at the end. I wish that I could claim credit for making something that funny, but they did that all by themselves, and it's not the only one like that.
Well, just because some scientists a long time ago thought this way does not mean that the entire theory should be thrown out.
Could you name one credible Homo erectus fossil?
That's the ending. It says wait for it, and then it just ends. That's how they're trying to connect to the kids. I want you to imagine right now, a bunch of old worship leaders sitting around a table in a church, trying to figure out how to reach the children of today with their fact-free dogma, and then one of them downloads TikTok, loses his mind, and writes that ending. In the interest of competition, however, I have taken this as an opportunity to try my own hand at engaging the youth. So, as an actual TikToker, please allow me to impress you with my bilingualism as I mog on these NPCs. Lock in, chat. If you're gonna handle all the wild side quests that life throws at you, you're gonna need a dank, giga-brain science education to keep up. Genuinely though, in terms of scientific rigor, creationism is high-key lagging. Evolution isn't just some theory. It's the true Sigma framework of biology. It straight up fact maxes its way through genetics, ecology, fossils, and at least 6 or 7 other fields. It predicts, tests, and delivers, no cap. And without it, the whole field of biology would be chopped AF. For real. Darwin dropped the hardest patch note in the history of science and said, clock it. And the data's been backing him up ever since. Unc was aura farming all around the Galapagos before you were even born. He ate, he left no crumbs, and bro's been the birthday for almost 200 years. Meanwhile, creationism is just LARPing science. That's why creationists always just be yapping about some rizzless delulu ideas like trust me bro while providing no receipts. It's giving fanfic. It's giving unverified headcanon, I fear. Science is the skibbity toilet where bad ideas get flushed. That's why evolution stays mogging in an everlasting truth era, and creationism is low-genuinely cooked. And that's on Darwin. Gagged, that's not. No, because the way I actually study science, that part, and good night. Overall, I give this whole classroom series a science teacher challenge level 2 out of 10. It's lazy and unoriginal and only sounds hard-hitting if you're not familiar with some of the terms they used. And last, but certainly not least, let's recap some of the reasons why you shouldn't care about creationism in a language that I know the people at Genesis Apologetics will understand. Evolution is a lie. You must believe in biblical creation. No questions.
But how else will the plot advance?
Okay, some questions.
Why would we be talking about creationism in a science class?
Because creationism is science.
Does creationism propose any specific mechanisms that we can observe in the real world?
No.
Does it make any novel, testable predictions?
No.
Can it be reduced to smaller, testable components to inductively build a testable model?
No.
Does it have any independent evidence that isn't just trying to discredit evolution as if disproving one thing would prove the other?
No.
Is it functionally different from magic in any meaningful way?
No.
Well then, how could you call it science?
Because anything that can't be observed directly from start to finish is historical science, which puts evolution and creation on the same playing field. Yes, human teenager.
But wouldn't that mean that we either have as good of a reason to believe in evolution as creationism, because they're both faith-based anyways, or that faith is a bad thing in science which undermines not just creationism, but your entire religion?
No.
What if I said a magic quantum raccoon ate my homework? You wouldn't be able to observe and repeat it, so you'd have to call it historical science on par with the Bible. And then I could sue for religious discrimination if you gave me a bad grade.
Something like that would never happen, probably. Especially not here in Oklahoma.
Do you really want to risk it?
Look, all I'm saying is that evolution is just a theory.
So is gravity.
Yeah, but that's different.
How?
I like gravity.
Isn't that just selectively choosing what you believe in based on totally inconsistent criteria?
I don't like to think about that.
What about artificial selection, or laboratory and field experiments that demonstrate evolution, or genetics, or embryology, or the fact that the dating methods used to verify the age of fossils you're dismissing also hold up the entire fossil fuel industry, or any of the other mountains of evidence that all undeniably point to evolution?
Well, how about this? Epigenetics.
What does that mean?
I don't know, just Google it. But don't look up how evolution works, and don't look up if apes have eye whites.
Can we talk about how to use Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium to measure shifts in allele frequencies, or nested hierarchies in phylogenies, or endogenous retroviruses?
Look, I'm gonna be real with you, I don't know what any of those words mean.
I just think it's really weird to dismiss evolution considering we deal with it on a daily basis. I mean, I get a new flu shot every year because viruses evolve.
Yeah, but that's just microevolution. Macroevolution isn't real.
That's like saying you believe in inches, but not miles.
Or atoms, but not molecules.
Or pages, but not books.
Seth Andrews, what are you doing here?
I'm a 14-year-old boy.
And besides, even if we did reject evolution, it wouldn't lend any credibility to the Bible specifically. If you want a good reason to believe in something, you need positive evidence for that claim, not negative evidence against another one.
You need positive evidence, not negative evidence. That's what you sound like right now.
It seems like you're really reaching here. Why push so hard for creationism, especially in a public school classroom?
Great question. It's because we're currently in a skit where we have to build the facade of an oppressive authoritarian education system to play to the persecution fantasy of a scientifically illiterate audience.
Who would make something like that?
I don't know, losers, I guess.
Can you please just say something competently wrong so we can clap already?
Darwin believed that whales evolved from bears.
Science sucks! Science sucks!
And with that, I'm Forrest Valkai. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, and all the other stuff we do here on YouTube. Please exit through the gift shop, pick up one of my sweet t-shirts. Have an awesome rest of your day, and never stop learning. Bye-bye. Hey there. This probably doesn't make any sense to you right now. There's a very small amount of my audience that understands exactly what's happening at this moment. But for the rest of you, I'm working on something, and you're going to understand it in a couple of months. This joke is from the future, and you'll get it very soon. Stay tuned.